This week we're going to be talking about investing in Games Workshop. Their insane profits, but also the misleading rumors that seem to always happen whenever a publicly traded stock becomes trending. Now, I don't blame these other YouTubers, they're just trying to gather as much information as possible, but whenever stuff like this happens, you end up with a load of Warhammer fans, Warhammer YouTubers, giving out a lot of investment advice. So first we're going to be getting into what is actually happening with the insider trading. Are board of directors selling shares, and if so, do we care? And then we're going to be talking about why the share price has gone down so much. Then we're going to be talking about whether Games Workshop can actually go bankrupt. Then we're going to be finishing off with your more or less bog standard earnings analysis, why I believe this stock has such a strong competitive advantage. So yeah, the first bit of bad investment advice I see a lot of YouTubers giving out is that they are saying in their YouTube videos, some of them go quite extreme with this, that board of directors are selling all of their shares. Honestly, if you watch some of these videos, they kind of make it sound like this person selling shares is like Bill Gates leaving Microsoft, or that all the board of directors are trying to sell all of their shares as quickly as possible. Yeah, no. First off, only one of the board of directors has sold shares, and she's sold 2/3 of her position and still holds a 1/3 stake. So she sold off around £700,000 worth of stock, and she still has 360,000 left. Next is she's retiring, and I know some people are making it out like she's quitting or she's being forced out. There's no evidence of this whatsoever, and actually if you look at the evidence, all we have indicates that she is genuinely retiring. She joined the company in 1996, has been working with us for 28 years, and has been serving on the board of directors for 9 years. Now she's 51, and seems to me that she's just retiring at a really good age. I know some people are trying to make out that the timing is suspicious. I think this is more just trying to add information to bulk out other people's YouTube channels, because she announced her retirement in January and the latest codex came out in April. So if she had retired based on her objection to the latest codex, she must have had an ungodly amount of foresight. Look at how many insiders sold Coca-Cola shares in the last 12 months. Look how many insiders sold Apple shares in the last 12 months. And Jeff Bezos himself sold a massive stake in Amazon recently. Did Jeff Bezos selling out mean that something terrible is about to happen at Amazon's next earning release? Nope. Amazon's next earning release was a smash hit, beating expectations, and the share price in Amazon has actually gone up. The fact is that the price to earnings of Amazon was quite good at the time, so Jeff Bezos just wanted to sell some shares, probably to go to space a few more times and buy a second mega yacht. Next up, why has Games Workshop share price crashed? I even had to check that the times of these videos were released to see if they were posting them at particular times that I was thinking about, but no, a lot of these videos are very, very recent, and they're talking about the Games Workshop share price collapsing. I can give you guys a really short answer to this one. It hasn't collapsed. Games Workshop, pretty much like all stocks, had a massive surge during the pandemic, and yes, if you measure to its all-time high back in 2021 or 2022, then yeah, the share price is about 30% down, and last year it was about 50% down from its all-time highs. But I gotta tell you, in the stock market, these are not big numbers, and actually Games Workshop, when you look at a 3-year, 5-year trajectory, their share price has gone up enormously. Next up, I got several comments that Games Workshop will go bankrupt, and I know that a lot of people, a lot of casual retail investors will get really panicked by this, but this is pretty much impossible. First off, Games Workshop makes so much money that they can pay for their operations 2 times over with 1 year's earnings. Next up, they have so much cash that they could survive a year making absolutely no money and still pay for their operations. And third up, they have enough cash to easily cover their debt 3 times over. They have so little debt that when you put it on a chart and compare it to their equity, the debt doesn't even show up. The simple answer as to why I'm investing in Games Workshop is competitive advantage. There are 2 ways to measure competitive advantage: in the real world and on the balance sheet. The company that has the largest competitive advantage in the world is Coca-Cola. So they make for an excellent example. In the real world, when I went traveling with my girlfriend around the world, I went to Vietnam, Cambodia, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, which is also in Australia, and then Bali and Sri Lanka. In every single one of those places, they had Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola products. And in every single one of those places, they were always cold chilled in a fridge, super cheap, and they all tasted identical. Everywhere I went, Coca-Cola tastes the same. That is their real world competitive advantage. And for them to lose their competitive advantage, basically everyone around the world would have to have their taste buds change overnight. But great businesses are not always fantastic investments. So this competitive advantage, what you've noticed in the real world, then has to show up on the balance sheet. One of the reasons that Coca-Cola is one of the biggest companies in the world is because they have such a fantastic gross margin. They have a 60% gross margin, and that's basically been the same for decades, because even though the cost of producing a can of Coke goes up, their customers are willing to pay more every time they up their prices. This is what the competitive advantage is all for. It's so that you have pricing power. And it means that a company that has a 60% margin pretty much consistently for decades has extraordinary pricing power. And as a result of this incredible pricing power, a lot of the other things on the balance sheet also would indicate that they have an extraordinary competitive advantage. Like the fact that a company that has incredible gross margins like Coca-Cola pretty much have no long-term debt because they have no need for borrowing. Now, when we look at Games Workshop, by contrast, they have a 70% gross margin. Now, when I first saw this, I thought, okay, that's impressive, but that might just be for 1 year. And then I look at their balance sheet, then I looked at their history, and they've been making 70% gross margins for like a decade. I think a lot of people assume when they see Games Workshop in my portfolio that the reason that I'm buying shares is the fact that it's a fair priced business, which also happens to have a film, Warhammer 40k film coming out next year starring Henry Cavill. But actually this film with Henry Cavill that's rumored to come out is just the icing on a very thick cake. Now, when I did my research on Games Workshop in the real world, I realized why they had such big margins, why they have such a big competitive advantage in tabletop games. First off, they use injection molding. So they are able to produce really complicated parts, things that would be quite expensive to design and develop on a 3D printer. They are able to produce these for pennies at a time because they are able to invest in big, heavy machined tools. These big tools are super expensive to create. Some of them can cost up to 10 grand. So the fact is the typical person is not going to be able to make these things unless someone else has done a lot of work designing them. And then you do it on your 3D printer. And what people don't realize is that decent 3D printers and decent plastic and all of these things are incredibly expensive, and they also fail a lot of the time. So it can be cost effective to buy the injection molded parts directly from Games Workshop. But the fact is, once you've built this tool, you can produce these parts insanely cheap. I'm talking pennies at a time. The machine just literally is there working all day, producing these parts for you. There's a little bit more work involved than that, but pretty much that's it. And then what they've done is they've taken these parts, these characters that they've designed, and wrapped them in a really elaborate, beautiful, incredible story. And some of these stories, Warhammer 40k, for example, was first written in 1987 and has been slowly added to over time. Warhammer have massive tournaments and massive group events that people are turning up to every year. There's literally a community of people behind this product. Now, there has been some recent controversy in the latest codex, and if you want to know more about that, please go check out my previous video. It is really important that Games Workshop do not push too hard on inclusivity and focus on keeping their core fan base happy. This is because, as Warren Buffett would put it, competitive advantage is a lot like virginity. It's a lot easier to lose it than it is to get it back. If you want to see Games Workshop in my portfolio or even see the other things that I'm investing in, feel free to go to eToro and search HJG White and you'll find my profile and you can see everything that I am investing in. You can even copy my trades. However, the thing that you really need to do if you want to be rich is